We're live. All right, live on YouTube. Mickey, this mic is all yours.
Okay, I'm so happy to be here today and help facilitate this class. So we're on page 69 out of Dr. Ken Wapnick's book, The Healing Power of Kindness, Volume 1, Releasing Judgment, The Practice of A Course in Miracles. And I'd like to start it with the prayer, open it up. So I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because he who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me. I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal. And so page 69 in the book, and I'm going to start with the quote. So are they dispelled not by the will of another, but by the union of the one will with itself, end quote. It is not your will, brilliance, or healing energy, not the radiance of your aura, the hot blast of energy from your hands, or your ability to quote the course, chapter, and verse that does anything. Indeed, you are irrelevant. As long as you think you are special, you obviously are as sick as the other person. Your task, once again, is to get yourself out of the way. What heals is the union of the one will with itself. In the holy instant, when your mind is sane and you are with Jesus and identified with his vision, you represent the unity of the sonship. That is what heals. The remembrance that the sonship is one and has not been separated. The function of God's teachers is to see no will as separate from their own, not theirs as separate from God's. Recall the example of David and Annie and how their lesson was to learn that no one in their situation, administration, staff, or patients was separate from anyone else. Again, healing is the experience, however brief it may be, that the mind is one. And if the mind of God's Son is one, there is no separation, no sin, guilt, fear, world, body, and sickness. What is so difficult? As students say all the time, is to give up our identification with the body. We think we live within it, and that if we do not get enough to eat or enough oxygen to breathe, something bad will happen. It is extremely hard to understand and certainly to experience that we are not our bodies. That is why this takes a lot of hard work and a lot of gentleness and kindness towards others and ourselves. You need to be gentle with yourself, understanding and respecting your own fear, let alone the fear of others. So I just want to stop right here for a sec, Lynn. And, you know, he's saying, Ken Wapnick saying that it's difficult for students, all of us, to give up our identification with the body because, you know, we all think in a way, because we're breathing, that, you know, that we are this body. So he's saying here, he says it is extremely hard to understand and certainly to experience that we are not bodies because, you know, I don't know if you've ever kind of drowned, but when I was a child around 12, was swimming in the river and there was an undercurrent, and it was smooth on top, but it pulled me under and I was drowning. And I remember I just kind of let go at that point. And first fear came in because it was up my nostrils, all the water, because you're thinking you're a body. And then when I just surrendered, I saw my step grandmother out on the shore sitting in a chair. And I just kind of surrendered at that point. And this voice in my head said, take your hand and stick it above the water, and she'll be able to see you. And I took my hand because the current kept trying to suck me under. And I stuck this little hand above the water, and the Holy Spirit in her, she heard the voice and she jumped off her chair and jumped into the water, and she pulled me out of that current and saved my life. So, Ken's saying here, it's extremely hard to understand and certainly to experience that we are not bodies. It takes a lot of hard work and a lot of gentleness and kindness, not only towards ourselves, but others. So we need to be gentle towards ourselves as well as respecting our own fear, let alone the fear of other people. And, I remember crying after that because I was a little kid. It was horrifying. But there was also this peace there too. So anyone else have anything to say about this, Lynn or Sharon?
Yeah, that's the hardest thing we have, is to figure out that we're not a body. And that's why, we have so many lessons that say I'm not a body. But of course, you're not going to believe that until you experience that. And I mean, when you were drowning and you just let go, the part of you that's not a body was able then to take over and guide you. But the idea that you could have that you were going to drown uh, was enough to make you like want to live. And that's how we are. We want to live. We want to, even, people who commit suicide, they don't really want to die. They just want things to be different, which is the same basically. But yeah, the whole idea of I'm not a body, when it's so evident to me in everything around me that I am. When I'm hungry, I recognize I'm a body. When I'm tired, I recognize whenever there's a extreme or stress. But if I'm just sitting here, listening to you all, or whatever it is that I'm doing, I don't experience myself as a body. And that's, I think, once you start realizing that when you're just still and you're not looking to the future or thinking about the past, and you're just being in the now, you really don't experience yourself as a body. And that's what I've, started kind of trying to notice all the time. Times that I don't experience myself as a body, which is a lot. It's a lot. It's crazy. Sharon has her hand up too. So Sharon, go
Okay,
ahead.
yeah, I was just going to say this is a very good. I love what he wrote here. You need to be gentle with yourself, understanding and respecting your own fear. And I don't think I really like saw how much there has to be fear in the mind that I won't surrender completely. Through the day, I do feel like I'm the body. And then when I'm in here, I don't, because I'm in mind. So I swing back and forth. And then, of course, there's a debate tonight, and that always, I live with somebody who's very into politics. So, I kind of have to see, I have to see that these are all my thoughts, no matter what I believe. And that the only reason that I would run to something like a debate even is because of the fear of completely just letting go. And, I also feel like, when I'm driving, like, I'm cautious. I mean, it's so subconscious that we think we're a body. So, I'm just glad that I'm as far along as I am now, because there was a time that I didn't have a lot of relief, and I have so much through the day. I feel so much peace because presence is dominant in my experience, but there's still so much body here. It's just, so I get what you're saying when you're going to drown. I don't have I want to just take what Ken is saying and have a lot of compassion for myself because I don't do that automatically. The ego is very harsh and it gets in there and says, how, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. Because it's only the ego really that wants to wake up. The truth of who we are is right here, right now. But, if I sit there and I judge, I'm hurting me. So the gentleness and respecting the fear is where I'm at. That's all. Thanks, Mickey.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Len. Yeah, it's so beautiful what Ken was saying. I like, where he says that it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of gentleness and kindness towards ourselves and also and then others. And so that's so beautiful. I mean, because then not only are you gentle and kind towards yourself, but then you're gentle and kind towards other people. And that's really what true empathy is then too. You really understand what having true empathy is. And you see yourself in your brother at that point, which is seeing the Christ. You don't the only face you see at that point then is the Christ. So yeah, and it makes us more compassionate, understanding. I mean, actually, it was something we were talking about earlier in another class today. I mean, you become more attractive to there's just the people are attracted to you, and it's because of this kindness, this understanding that you have. So yeah, it's
They
just
they respond with our energy. Our energy shifts.
yeah, your energy shifts. Yeah, and animals are that way too. They'll feel it from you. That I mean, maybe that's what was it, David, that the lions they didn't eat him. They were calm when he went in the arena. I think it was David, wasn't it? It's a parable in the Bible. So
I didn't read. I know the David and Goliath.
Daniel
Dan,
and
it
Lions.
was Daniel.
Daniel,
Okay.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's Karen. Hi, Karen.
I care. You know what? I when he says gentle, this is why I love him. I've seen a lot of teachers that are harsh. Like he's never been harsh. He's just so kind. Because there has to be, if I'm running back, I am looking forward to the debate, and that's just the truth. I'm just telling on myself.
Yeah.
And, and I have my own preferences. I have not completely transcended this whole thing, what's going on out there. And I do have an opinion, and I don't want to say it on here, but I was getting yesterday a little riled up about it because of the fear. It had to be the fear of not being this person, that this person is just false evidence appearing real. So it's like an addiction. It's not like it is an addiction, but it's running in different layers of our psyche.
Yeah. We're on page, thank you, Sharon. We're on page 70, Karen. So now. Okay, so yeah, you can
I was
just
gonna
watch yourself, Sharon. Oh, go ahead, Len. Len, go ahead.
I was gonna say something to what Sharon was saying about the debate and what is the fear? The fear is that the script has not been written,
Right, you're right. That was helpful.
that God is not in charge of anything,
right.
that we are just out here where
Oh, I'm not
something could
afraid
happen.
who's going to win. I'm just saying that I must be
No.
fearful if I'm still attracted to it.
That's what I'm saying though. That's the fear. The fear is that
Yeah.
things are not um that God is not in charge and that something could go wrong. And if as long as we think something could go wrong, it's a scary world. So
Oh,
that's
yes,
what I'm
that
saying.
was so clear, Lynn, and so helpful. I really love that.
Thank you. All right.
That was beautiful. Okay, I'll read the next paragraph then on page 70. Importantly, none of these teachings should be taken to mean that you should not pay attention to what other people are saying to you or that you ignore their suffering. The heart of the teaching is that you not let circumstances, however awful they may be, affect the love and the peace of Jesus within you. If you can do that, you cannot but be kind to everyone, not just to specific groups or specific people on specific days, depending on their specific symptoms or specific circumstances. You will be kind to everyone all the time because there is only kindness within you. Obviously, you cannot manifest kindness to each of the 5 billion people on the planet, but you can, in your mind, not exclude anyone. You will demonstrate that kindness to whoever is part of your classroom, and you do not choose who is in and who is not. The bottom line always is to let Jesus be your teacher, for then it will be his eyes through which you see and his love through which you act and speak. He says in the introduction to the 5th review in the workbook, quote, "For this alone I need, that you will hear the words I speak and give them to the world. You are my voice, my eyes, my feet, my hands through which I save the world." End quote. The world that is saved is the world of the sick mind that believes it is separated. As long as that sick mind believes it is a body that interacts with other bodies, the healing thought of love must be expressed in the specific form we believe we are in, the world and the body. Our job then, when our minds are healed, is to be present to other people in whatever form or on whatever level they are comfortable with, but to know that we are not really there, that we are in the world but not of it. Our identity and our reality at that moment is with the mind and its love, which represents the oneness of God's Son. That is the message we want to give. And I'd like to stop here before we go to the next, which is a question, because it was so interesting that this just answered also what Sharon is going to be going through this evening and watching the debate. It totally answered her question there.
No, because it's a sick mind. The world that is saved is the world of the sick mind that believes it is separated. That's all it is. It's so simple.
And you're going to be kind to everyone, no matter how the debate goes. So it's a wonderful classroom for you, Sharon,
Yes.
to be able to watch it. And there's going to be probably millions of people that are going to be watching it along with you tonight. So,
You can actually see that the way they're acting, it's almost like it's a comedy almost. It's ridiculous. I never saw our world show up where there's so much hate over what. But see, this is the ego.
A great thing to do, kind of like an experiment. And I would love for all of us to do this actually. And you may not be willing to, and that's even okay if you even think about it, is that we could watch the debate. And as we watch the debate, we can be looking at each character that's there, from the moderators to, the participants, and look at them and see the Christ in them. Look, as that one workbook lesson says, look at them and think about a light in them, and have the light expand until it surrounds them, and then have that light come into you. You can do that with a person on a television screen, or
I
even in
love
your mind
that.
right
That's
now.
beautiful.
We could do that. And
Yeah.
I wonder if the power of the Holy Spirit through our participation in a real true act of forgiveness, I wonder if it would shift us into a different paradigm where that fearful thought is not even a possibility and things are different. I would love to see that. I'm going to try it personally. I'm going to do that and see because we might come out of this with like completely transformed beings because that's what happens when you totally forgive the holiest place on earth is where an ancient hatred has been put to rest. I mean,
Yeah.
that brought to love, basically. What this is, what we're talking about here, is really an ancient hatred. It's a belief that there are other beings out there who want to harm us. And, if we could just come to the place where we see that that's not the case in any way at all, I would love to see the shift in my mind of doing that. And I'm feeling a shift in my mind just thinking of it right now. So,
Yeah. That's beautiful.
That was
That's
so
a,
cool.
that's a good exercise. Thanks for sharing that. And,
I
yeah.
will use it tonight. I know you're going to have the thing at 7, so I will leave probably to watch it with Cliff at 8, but I'm going to stay quiet. I'm actually doing something interesting. I'm putting here, there's a book I read called Breath, and it's all about that we don't breathe through our nose, we breathe through our mouth. So I'm even going to put tape on my mouth. Because this Sharon character is emotional, and she doesn't like when these seeming people out there are going to get hurt. So
that's it. We just have to recognize that nothing can harm a son of God.
right.
And we are all sons of God. We're not in a dangerous situation.
That's right.
And that's so hard to believe, because it seems so evident. Oh gosh, yes, we are. No, but no, we're not.
Well,
That's
it's
I,
just
I
a
think
different energy. When I get angry or when I'm upset about this, the energy is not the grace that I want. It's not. It's an agitation. Yeah.
all right. So do you want to go to the next page?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Page 71, the question. It makes us,
Michale,
yeah,
I just have a question. What
sure.
what edition do you have? Because my book's not matching up with this. I
Oh,
have the
okay.
second.
I have, let's see, it says volume 1. It's green. Yeah, the cover's green. And let's see, what does it say? My book says copyright 2004.
Yours is the first edition. Does it say what edition it is?
First printing 2004. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, on the very first page when it says volume 1, second edition, like in the very, 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 very first page, like in the very beginning.
Yes. It
Does
says
it actually? Go ahead.
it says first printing 2004 and then copyright 2004. And so I guess, yeah, my book's from 2004. So
Okay, so yeah, we
are
have
you
two different. I have the second edition, so I'm not matching up with you. So I'm just gonna have to figure it out
okay?
how to get to
Okay,
your
well,
page.
okay, we're on being a teacher of kindness. It's
Are we not seeing it up on the screen?
Oh yeah, I see it on the screen. I just bought the book and I wanted to follow with the book with Michale
okay,
because she asked me
okay,
to help her
yeah,
sister. So yeah, it's just a different book. So I gotta
okay.
figure out
So
how I'm
look
gonna.
for the section, Karen, that
Okay.
says on being a teacher of kindness.
Okay. Oh yeah, wow, that's page 49. Okay.
Okay, okay. On my book, it starts on page 45. And then we're over on my book on page 71, but it's the first question that comes after all the paragraphs. And that's where we're going to start reading is the first question. And it's got a Q, and then it's got quotation marks. And then it says, it makes us feel so peaceful and loving to be in our right mind, comma. So why doesn't it last? Question mark. Do you see that one?
No, you go ahead. I'll find it.
Okay, so that's the question. The answer, then it has an A. Why can't we make that peace and love last? If it is so wonderful, question mark, because there is a part of our mind that is insane, that does not believe that peace and love are wonderful. Remember, the ego began in the instant the son decided to run away from peace and love and choose conflict. Indeed, the ego thought system is built on conflict. I killed God, and now he is going to rise from the dead and kill me. The foundation of our world is the thought that I can escape from conflict. I project it from the mind, and now my body is in conflict with everything. My very existence as an ego, thus, is built on conflict. You cannot have conflict and be with peace and love. The idea then is to realize the mistake in choosing conflict and pain over peace and love. Once you have had an experience of peace and love, you would find it much more difficult to take your ego seriously. But there is still a part of you that says, you'd better watch it. If you keep on with this Jesus fellow, you are not going to be yourself anymore. So I want to stop there. So what he's talking about here is that there's still so much fear. There's the fear of letting go. And that's where the ego comes in, and it says, you know, you better watch it. If you keep on with this Jesus fellow, you are not going to be yourself anymore. So the ego is so afraid of losing its identity. And then as far as like if we bring in the debate, which is tonight, I would say that, you know, try to look at the one that has the least amount of conflict, the one that's coming more with peace and love, that's trying to bring peace and love in the situation, in the debate, opposed to bringing more conflict, because the ego is going to always bring conflict. That's, you know, it believes it killed God, it ran away, which is kind of like, you know, what you were talking about earlier, Lynn, about, you know, you brought up the prodigal son in an earlier class, and you know, that son, you know, the conflict, it went away, but you know, the loving presence, the Father's arms are always there to welcome you back in. Anyone else want to talk about this question and answer here?
You know, when you were saying that, you know, you go for the one in least conflict, I think it's gonna be different tonight. I think they're not gonna let them engage together. So that would be better because, you know, for me, you know, I do have someone that I feel is less conflict and it's running. But, you know, again, because I have like the program still running in me, I think I'm gonna use it now as a tool to sit in the quiet because I don't want to. I mean, I say that, and I also know that I have fallen back. What happens to me is the ego you know, basically will say, well, what are you doing? You have to care. I mean, after all, you have kids in this world, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it'll bring that up. I mean, yeah,
Just
it's
guilt.
not easy. It's not easy.
Well,
'Cause
no, I mean, I fall, and then when I'm with my family, like starting next Thursday, I'll have all four of my grandchildren here and it'll be very interesting because then I am definitely in the body when everybody's there. They're, you know, and I think that it's just about staying with Holy Spirit. Because if I realize that I have something that's invisible here, I won't get swallowed up.
yeah, just
I
come
help her.
peace and love.
Mhm.
So, and not conflict, because conflict's always from the ego. Okay, well, I guess I'll go to the next question then. Question: God knows what I will be. Answer: right. That's the problem. The fear is that if you keep this up, you will lose your identity. but then you have the experience of love. And in that experience, all your problems are gone. It becomes almost impossible in the long run to take your problems quite so seriously again. This is also the basis of the fear of getting well that many people experience. The first part of the section of the manual we were discussing describes healing from the point of view of the wrong mind, where, in relation to God, sickness and pain are valued for the strength they confer on suffering. Quote, and what is this insane conviction does healing stand for? It symbolizes the defeat of God's Son and the triumph of his Father over him. It represents the ultimate defiance in a direct form which the Son of God is forced to recognize. It stands for all that he would hide from himself to protect his life. If he is healed, he is responsible for his thoughts. And if he is responsible for his thoughts, he will be killed to prove to him how weak and pitiful he is. But if he chooses death himself, his weakness is his strength. Now has he given himself what God would give to him, and thus entirely usurped the throne of his creator. End quote. In other words, if my identity is built upon sickness and problems, healing means letting go of my ego identity, in back of which is the terrible truth that God was right and I was wrong. Thus, healing, as the above paragraph states, reflects that I am responsible for my thoughts, and if so, no one else is, which means that God is going to get me. I am therefore much better off being sick, because then I can say to God, look, you don't have to punish me. I've already suffered enough. That is a clever but vicious ploy of the ego that basically tells God, but out. I don't want your love. I also don't need you to punish me because I am going to punish me. Therefore, I want to stay sick. And so letting go of the symptoms becomes a great threat. We close this chapter on being a teacher of kindness with this lovely quotation from the text. I have taken the liberty of changing 4 words. That's Ken saying that. And this is a quote, teachers of kindness, each in his own way, have joined together, taking their part in the unified curriculum of the atonement. There is no unity of learning goals apart from this. There is no conflict in this curriculum, which has one aim, however it is taught. Each effort made on its behalf is offered for the single purpose of release from guilt, to the eternal glory of God and his creation. And every kindness that points to this points straight to heaven and the peace of God. There is no pain, no trial, no fear that kindness cannot fail to overcome. The power of God himself supports this kindness and guarantees its limitless results. End quote. What better way to structure our day than to remember this unconflicted curriculum of kindness, the gentle, non-judgmental path to heaven and the peace of God. So I'd like to stop here and go over this. I love where it says, there is no pain, no trial, no fear that kindness cannot fail to overcome. The power of God himself supports this kindness and guarantees its limitless results. So, I mean, just be kind. It's going to overcome everything. And God supports you 100%. and guarantees the results. That's all you have to do is be kind if you don't know what else to do in anything, or before you say anything or do anything. Anyone have any comments on this section?
You know, I want to just say that I just love your voice. It just is very relaxing. And I think this book, I have this book too, and I don't know if I have this version or the other one, but what I found yesterday, it was just an interesting thing. My sister, I have 3 sisters, and one of them is, not, she just doesn't talk to us anymore because she just blames everybody for everything. And she's my oldest sister, but she's only 2 years older. So I didn't want to talk about politics yesterday, and I didn't. I got off the phone, but she was screaming about somebody that I wouldn't, the opposite side, and saying horrible things. And I said, you know what? I'm sorry, I got to go because I have to do stuff. I didn't get into it. She goes, are you a whatever, a Democrat? And I said, yeah, I am. So she didn't like it. She didn't like it. It was almost like, and it was okay. But I did have a reaction. I'm not going to lie. I did. And that's just the ego just sitting there trying to get me to just agree, that she didn't treat me right and she's this and she's that. And it doesn't work. And I have to remember. But I did good. I didn't say anything. I just got off the phone.
That's good. I have a friend that tries to get in those discussions, and I just I tell her I don't want to talk about that.
Not healthy, because really
Yeah.
it's never been like that before. This is the only time I've ever had, and that's just because what's going on now. But I think like what the ego likes is if someone agrees with it, then it will absolutely like that person. But if you don't
Yes.
agree with it, then it won't like it. So-
Right. Yeah.
And I have to remember, I'm not the ego. That's the most important part.
Yeah.
And Karen has her hand up.
Okay, Karen.
Yeah, thanks, Sharon. Thanks, Michale. And it's so funny how I know Ken talks about this a lot when we're making it real. We're making it real when we have a reaction to it, when we let it allow it to have an effect on us. And I love what you did, Sharon. And sometimes that's what we have to do. I mean, so we don't have to, it's not worth arguing about. It's not worth, it's just not, we can disagree, but we can still get along, and it's not that big of a deal, and when I make it a big deal, that's when I allow it to affect me and I really take it personally. I love what you pointed out too, Michale. And even before that, he says that when you have the experience of love, in that experience, all your problems are gone. It becomes almost impossible in the long run to take your problems quite so seriously again. So it's looking beyond the appearances, beyond the body, beyond the whatever I see in Donald Trump or anyone is only a reflection of something that I'm not healed, something unhealed in myself. And can I see that? I mean, first, I think I don't always jump to that. I don't always jump to that. But when I can actually get to that point, that for me is where the healing happens. When I know that it has nothing to do with Donald Trump, it has nothing to do with my granddaughter, it has nothing to do with anything outside of me. It's my reaction and my thoughts about it. And that's, the course always brings me back to that. But we take everything just so seriously here. And he's saying, when we stop taking it so seriously, we can be at peace, basically. So
that was so helpful. I hope tonight, before we go in, Lynn, that you could give us we could all do a pep talk. Because I was good yesterday, but don't get me, I'm going to tell the truth because I have to. But, I did talk to my other sisters. So I did talk about it because I was, I'm not going to say that I was this well-behaved course student. I didn't get like really angry, but I just thought, oh my God, like, she didn't have to, she got so mad, like, and I just didn't know what to do with it.
I was going to say, I got into it with my sister a few years ago at the election, and we didn't talk to each other for like a couple of years. And it was, pretty awful because she's my only one.
Right.
Everybody else is dead. So, it was like, well, what is happening here? And, it's so weird because, now I recognize, she's a farmer. They're farmers. They live in Kansas. They're concerned about, the price of wheat and fertilizer. The fertilizer prices have gone up. And, that's what she's looking at. She's not looking at, she didn't care what's going on in Ukraine or Gaza. That's not even in her scope at all. And I'm sure they do, I'm sure their local news is a Fox News station. I'm sure she gets fed all this stuff, but if she has, I told her when we were first arguing, I said, you've been fooled, and she says, I am not a fool, and I realized, I realized exactly that was I was calling her a fool. I realized, she believes what she's been shown is real, just like I believe what I've been shown is real.
Right. Yeah.
And none of it is. It's all part of the dream. So, then that's when I realized, my God, is this insanity enough to lose my only living sibling?
Right.
The only, it's just so crazy. And so, now we talk pretty frequently, and it's we don't talk about anything like that at all. None, nothing. We talk about, crops and kids and that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's what you got
Yeah,
to
that
do.
was
Just
helpful.
love.
The bottom line is that all of this is hurting me. So I just don't, she just walked away from 9 years ago. My dad died, and she went into a very massive depression. And I was there for her, but she just didn't want anything to do with us because she blamed him for everything. And she hasn't done this work. So I have to have compassion.
Yeah, no
Not,
kidding.
yeah. I mean, if you have to stay in the hellish mind that we live in, it's a horrible mind.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Karen, go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, thank you, girls. And Lynn, I like what you just shared about your sister because I held a resentment against my dad's girlfriend. She was rotten to my father towards the end of his life, and he said, I welcome death and live in this hell. I mean, he really wanted out, mostly because of the toxic relationship he was in with her. But long story short, she had 3 children with my father, small children. And at the time they were my little sisters and brothers. One was like, the youngest was 2. She was my godchild. And then there was a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. And I didn't speak to them for 2 years because of her, because of my anger towards her and resentment towards her. It was so strong, and I kept it going. You know what I mean? I kept it going until I realized that I was only hurting myself, and I was hurting my relationship with my sisters and brother, and like that's how far I took it. And I had to make amends and forgive. And she didn't change. She did not change, but I changed. And it took 2 years. The course says it can take a long, long time. And this was before the course, actually. But like I can relate to what you just shared, because this is how bad that all it does is keep the separation going. It's not helpful. And to be kind, as this what we're reading here, and to be loving, to be kind is to, you know, see that she just it was calling for love, big time, big time. It was a call for love, and I could not see past the attack. So thank you for that. And I really am conscious when I see when I hold on to something, like my uncle said, you're like a dog with a bone. When I hold on to something, because you're like a dog with a bone. And I noticed that, and I'm like, okay, let's let go of this bone. I don't need to hold on so tight anymore. That's all.
It's funny because I shared a room with my sister. There's 4 of us, but she and I went through the most together. And she just didn't want, because she wanted me to not be friends with my other sisters. And I'm so close with my younger sisters. So it just was, it's just ridiculous. But you know, what I feel like is when I talk to her, she doesn't want to really talk. She'll call to see how I am and she won't, and I'll say, how are you? And it's so creepy. She doesn't say anything. And we were so, you know, I just don't get it. So I guess I just take it to the Holy Spirit and just say, all I hear is love her. Just love her and just be okay with it and forgive it because it didn't happen.
Yes,
Yeah,
and loving her is actually letting her have whatever kind of relationship with you that she feels
Yeah,
like she needs to have,
that's
because
right.
she's just trying to protect herself in some way.
mhm, yeah,
And
Absolutely.
you know, until she, you know, and she may never in her lifetime, in this time in this world, come to recognize any part of that, but you can recognize it for her. And that's the beauty of this course too, because minds are joined. We can
mhm,
recognize things for each other. We
mhm,
can, by seeing our brothers as they really are, we pull them up. And like I said, you cannot believe the kind of changes in a person that will happen if we step back and just take the role of being the I don't know, the thing that lifts people up, lifts the world up. Anyway,
yeah.
so do we want to keep on, or we're going to go to the next page?
Yeah, we can go to the next page. Okay. All right. So the next page is conclusion, the section where it starts on conclusion. A Jesus prayer, Jesus as our model of kindness. Emulating our Creator's kindness and love, and striving to be kind to one another here. Born of our choice not to see anyone's interest as separate from our own, we reflect our mind's decision to be willing to learn how mistaken we were in believing that by withholding love, we would be made stronger. Learning to accept Jesus' consistent kindness to us, we would wish only to have that same kindness be extended through us. As he tells us, quote, hold out your hand that you may have the gift of kind forgiveness, which you offer one whose need for it is just the same as yours, and let the cruel concept of yourself be changed to one that brings the peace of God. End quote. The simple rule of the Lama of Shangri-La, be kind, should also be the guiding principle of students of A Course in Miracles, seeking to learn and practice Jesus' teachings of forgiveness. In this way, our self-centered belief in the need for anger and judgment is undone, replaced by the loving kindness that Jesus has always held out to us. In the beautiful prose poem, The Gifts of God, we read Jesus' comforting words as he urges us to take his kind gifts of mercy in exchange for our cruel gifts of hate. And here's the prose poem on Helen's Gifts of God. Quote, give me these worthless things, things of slander. The instant that you see them through my eyes and understand their cost, then give away their bitter dreams as you perceive them now to be but that, and nothing more than that. I take them from you gladly, laying them beside the gifts of God that he has placed upon the altar to his Son. And these I give to you to take the take the place of those you give to me in mercy on yourself. These are the gifts I ask, and only these. For as you lay them by you, reach to me, and I can come as Savior then to you. The gifts of God are in my hands to give to anyone who would exchange the world for heaven. You need only call my name and ask me to accept the gift of pain from willing hands that would be laid in mine, with thorns laid down and nails thrown away, as one by one the sorry gifts of earth are joyously relinquished. In my hands is everything you want and need, and hope to find among the shabby toys of earth. I take them all from you, and they are gone, and shining in the place where once they stood, there is a gateway to another world through which we enter in the name of God, the gifts of God, end quote. With these thoughts in our hearts and prayers on our lips, we continue our journey with Jesus, offering kindness to the Son of God, who is both our brother and ourself. A Course in Miracles provides the perfect structure for this journey. Jesus, the comforting hand that steadies our steps along the way, and kindness, the daily principle that helps us remember who walks beside us along the road that leads from specialness through forgiveness and on to the peace of God. As I close, I would like to read one of Helen's poems that fits in very nicely with everything we have been discussing. Many of you know it, for I read it frequently. This is a prayer from us to Jesus, that we become like him. The poem ends with the more specific prayer, and then we are with people and they look on us. They will not see us, but only him. The idea that I begin with of being kind is an expression of Jesus's love. Thus, everyone's prayer ought to be that they become the specific expression of the peace and kindness he so lovingly amplifies. If you choose that as your goal, you would always have a model to follow when you are with someone. Am I kind the way Jesus would be, or am I judgmental? Question mark. If the latter, I am saying to this person, when you look at me, you will not see Jesus, you will see me, an expression of God's wrath, not his love, because my judgment, which is righteous and valid, is the way God judged you. Your question to yourself should therefore be, is this the way I want to be seen, or as an expression of Jesus's kindness and love? A Jesus prayer can guide you through the rest of your life as you happily learn to let go of judgment and become like him, a teacher of kindness. The poem begins with the phrase, a child, a man, and then a spirit, and the capitalization indicates the words refer to Jesus. 2 stanzas later, the same lines appear, a child, a man, and then a spirit, without the capitalization, because they represent us. The meaning of the poem prayer, therefore, is that we grow to become like him. Experiencing his love leads us to demonstrate it to everyone else. Kindness extending kindness to kindness. Thus is the world healed in our elder brother's kindness and love, which will one day be ours, for it is already our own. A Jesus prayer. A child, a man, and then a spirit. Come in all your loveliness. Unless you shine upon my life, it is a loss to you, and what is lost to you is also mine. I cannot calculate why I am here, except for this. I know that I have come to seek you here and find you. In your life, you show the way to my eternal home. A child, a man, and then a spirit. So I follow in the way you show to me, that I may come at last to be like you. What but your likeness would I want to be? There is a silence where you speak to me and give me words of love to say for you, to those you send to me. And I am blessed because in them I see you shining through. There is no gratitude that I can give, for such a gift. The light around your head must speak for me, for I am dumb beside your gentle hand with which my soul is led. I take your gift in holy hands, for you have blessed them with your own. Come, brothers, see how like to Christ am I, and I to you, whom he has blessed and holds as one with me. A perfect picture of what I can be. You show to me that I might help renew your brother's failing sight. As they look up, let them not look on me, but only you. The Gifts of God, page 82 through 83. And so I believe this is where we'll end our class today. So would someone like to share on a Jesus prayer? Would anyone like to share on this?
I just loved it. I just loved it.
That's really beautiful.
I mean, I do feel that Ken was in the spot that we all want to be there because he just had so much clarity. It was just incredible.
It really did.
Well, he was a scholar. He had a whole different, and his, the thing about Ken Wapnick is he had a grace about him that just, and very, he didn't judge really. Now, there were times I've heard from people like Dub even that he did judge, but that was probably in the beginning. But he didn't when he got older.
Yeah, he definitely.
We're not even judging. The mind is. We're not the mind, but I keep believing it.
Yeah, I love this the Jesus prayer. It's such a beautiful poem.
It really is.
Yeah, and you know how it starts out with a child, a man, and then a spirit. So, I mean, it kind of shows, going through the dream and evolving. A child, a man, and then a spirit. Then you realize who you really are. But you have to go through the process first. Of being a child.
Karen has her hand up.
Karen?
Yeah, this is a beautiful prayer. And I don't have too much to say on it right now, but I was just thinking of what Sharon said about Ken and judging, and I'm sure he judged. I mean, I feel like as long as you're in this body, that's the only way I can word it, as long as you're here in form, you're going to judge. And I honestly, I think that the teachers that are more advanced, like the advanced teachers of God, um, they judge less and they catch it sooner, and they don't take it seriously and they look with the gentleness. They're very gentle and kind to themselves. They don't, beat themselves up or do anything that is non-loving. They love themselves even through the judgment. They just look at it like it's a silly thing they did, and they just, because I don't see how it's possible. Not That's just me personally, because that's my experience. I don't see how it's not possible to judge when you're an ego. The ego is 100% fear/hate, and the Holy Spirit is 100% love. And unless you're in that right mind 100% of the time, you're going to judge. And if he's reading a book, A Course in Miracles, he's still believing that he's a body because he's actually reading A Course in Miracles. So that's just my opinion. And I just think the advanced teachers of God are more gentle and do all the characteristics they portray, and they don't make it a big deal. They don't take it seriously, and they know it's not the truth. So that's all.
Well, that's really, I think that's beautiful that you said that, Karen, because in next week's class we'll be getting into the appendix, and the appendix is all on, Ken wrote about do no harm to anyone. That's what the whole appendix is about. And he says in there, with pen in hand, that you can begin to jot down all these probing questions and omissions in your life. And he goes into that. And so it's kind of like you go into a life review. So when I was reading this, with what you're saying, you have to go into a life review, you're judging, you're going back, you're looking at your whole life review. And of course, the ego's done some, crazy stuff in that life review. So it is a judgment, but it's, you don't feel guilt about it. It's just, silly little ego, that's what it does. You got to just kind of laugh at it. But what you were saying is actually what's going to be in the next class. So that's really interesting that you came with that thought, because that's where we're going. So I thought that was interesting. So
Sharon has her hand up.
I just
Okay.
want to thank you, Mickey. I think this was so helpful. And, I was teaching today, so I was, of course, using my brain. And this just really, Karen, what you shared is so true. We can never know, like I told somebody last week that Jeff Foster has a tape out because he himself has seen that it doesn't matter if you still have a little, but what you want to do is not judge for yourself. And if you have control, when I sit there tonight, I will just watch it and I'll just have Holy Spirit right there. Because even though I know we are the Holy Spirit, there's still a Sharon character that wants to have an idea, wants to talk. So, got to be realistic.
Yeah, and that's okay. And that's okay. The Sharon character, like I've noticed with the Karen character, it's okay. When I can be gentle and kind to myself through that judging. It's when I judge on top of the judging, when I judge myself on top of it, then I'm doing harm. Then
Yeah.
I'm really doing harm. So it's just being gentle. I think it comes down to this book, really what this book is saying, to be gentle and kind. It's just so true.
It's funny because people sometimes there's a woman that wrote to me that used to live in my neighborhood in Philly, and she was telling me how kind I was. And I really thought I was. But as you go through life and this process, you can see the ego thoughts that are underneath the nice thoughts. I was talking about that this morning. Like the thought of the ego is nice, but underneath it, it says a lot of stuff that, the Course is really telling the truth. And for me, when I was reading it from guilt, I believed it. Now I feel good. I don't feel that way. But it's a book of a lifetime. You don't get done with this. I can't imagine that anyone would get done with this teaching. At
Yeah,
least for me.
I mean that's so true, Sharon. And like I was reading the appendix because I was trying to kind of read to prepare for the class for today. And I don't know where we're going to stop, where we're going to end, because you just, you give everything over to the Holy Spirit to direct it. And it'll go as far as it's supposed to go. Even if it goes only one paragraph for the hour, that's fine.
Right.
And, he, in next week's section on the appendix, he is taking accountability. It's almost like it's like you have pen and paper and you start taking it. It's like you do a life review, and it's like as if you were to go to a psychotherapist or a therapist and they were giving you homework on what to do. And obviously he had to go through this himself, and then he, in that kindness towards himself, with that, then you're able to extend that kindness to others too. So yeah, it's what you were saying. I love it because it actually, just reading this little book, The Healing Power of Kindness, it's made me even get closer to Ken, because he's really left a gift for all of us.
He
It's
really
like
is, yeah.
it's like we're going to, you know, a psychotherapist who's telling you, this is what I want you to do. I mean, he says with pen and paper in hand, he's telling you right there, this is what I want you to do.
And it's like having, you can take, if you don't trust the Holy Spirit, you can listen to Ken, because you know, when he's teaching, it's coming from the higher self, or anyone else that's teaching. You know, I have to
Right.
listen to Karen's because I was teaching a child when you were on, Karen, because I feel like the more I listen to the truth and it goes in, I feel so much better. You know, I just feel better. And that's really what the course is for. You know, I used to hear him say, well, you just want to feel better.
Yeah, I also loved how Ken met people where they were, you know. One of his teachings helped me so much, where a girl was talking about sickness. And I think the title of it was illness, not sickness. But he spent so much time with this girl. Oh, so beautiful. The time that he spent with her until she really felt some peace with it, because she was really struggling. He never judged her. He never, nothing. It was just all love and kindness and just supportive. And it was just so beautiful to watch him really help this girl. And you could see the smile on her face afterwards, how good she felt after she really felt like she could be at peace with her illness, you know, because his bottom line was, you know, so you might have to be on medication for the rest of your life. So you might have to deal with this for the rest of your life. Can I be at peace with this, knowing that I have to deal with this for the rest of my life, you know? And that came slowly towards the end. But it's okay. In other words, he's saying it's okay if you're on medication. It's okay if you have an illness. You know, it's, can I be at peace with this? You know, and once our mind is at peace, then our mind is healed. It doesn't matter what the body goes through. It was a beautiful, just watching him, so helpful.
Really is. This
Yeah.
was helpful, this session too.
Well, I guess if no one else has anything to say, we can end it here. And normally I end it with the forgive us our illusions prayer, but I thought that was so beautiful, the Jesus prayer, that we could just end it with that. We just read the Jesus prayer. I think that's a really beautiful prayer to end the class with.
I agree. It was beautiful.
It's perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you both, all of you. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
I mean,
Thank
the
everyone.
clarity that comes through, you know, our sisters and brothers is so beautiful, because if you don't have it, you just listen and you'll hear it, and it's your clarity.
Right.
So
So true. Okay, well, have a wonderful day, everyone.
you too, everyone. I'll see
Bye.
you. I'm going to come in at 7, hoping that Lynn is just going to foster up some, you know, Rafi will be in there and he'll say, oh, none of it's real. None of it's real. He'll be a good coach. And we'll, yeah. Because my husband, he doesn't, like, he hears me, so he knows a little bit of it, but he also, you know, is not interested like me. I mean, this stuff is everything to me. We're insane without it.
Yeah,
We are.
exactly. And Rafi would be just saying, can you let it go?
Can you let it go? Right. That's all you have to
Okay,
say.
can you feel it? Can you
Yeah.
can you take it in and feel it and let it
I
get
love
as big
him.
as it can
Yeah.
be and see that fear and let it go. So, all right, you guys, I love you all. Thank
See you
you.
later.
Thank you. Thank
See you
you.
tonight.